Hello, I'm Gareth.
And I'm Shane, and welcome to Building Business Resilience.
This is a podcast from Sanctuary Financial Planning, which helps growth business owners and social media influencers achieve financial independence.
We're two passionate financial planners on a mission to seek out new ideas, tips and tricks to help you take control of your finances and run better businesses.
We delve into the true goals and aspirations of our guests in order to provide you with some real value and positivity.
Nothing outrageous, clear, simple, solid financial solutions. We also have a YouTube series to accompany this, and details will be at the end of the show. So let's move on to our guest.
Episode 20 in today's show, we're going to be talking to Harri Coleman. Harri is Director of Fabric, the care leavers community. Fabric's mission is to ensure that care leavers are not defined by their start in life. Fabric kids will know that they're loved. Fabric kids will have opportunities, potential, control over their lives. Harri is extremely passionate about what she does and what Fabric stands for. This may be her first podcast, but having known Harri for a short time, this is going to be a fun one. So without much further ado, let's get started.
Hi, Harri. How are you?
I'm good today, thanks. It's Monday.
Start of the week. Gotta love it.
Start of the week.
Happy Monday, everyone.
The same day.
Does it matter what days of the week it is at the moment? I thought they all just blended into one.
Oh, I don't know. I'm still trying to do the whole, at least save my Sunday so that I'm into work mode on Monday. I've tried that lately. It seems to be working.
Really psych yourself up for a Monday start.
Yeah, definitely.
People seem to be having hangovers on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays now, and
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of that. I think it's the there's definitely a lockdown excuse that drinking is acceptable every night, but I'm not a big drinker, so I don't suffer with that, I'm afraid.
Even people having the nibbles and the chocolates and the bad food, that just doesn't go now on a Friday and Saturday. It's the weekend. Let's have some chocolate. It's like what's in the fridge to eat? I'm not gonna go out to the shop. It's in lockdown. It's a danger to the family. We'll just have Cadbury's cream eggs for dinner.
Yeah. I'm definitely chocolate intake is up, but my chocolate intake is usually quite up.
keep the sugar levels high.
Yeah.
How's lockdown been for you? Garden renovations, anything like that?
Well, I 70% painted my fence. I had a week where
Was that in March?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like end of April, where I was desperately seeing everybody else doing their projects, and I was like, I know I've got no time, but I must paint my fence. And then I ran out of paint and I couldn't get it anywhere. And it's now the 1st of August and I still haven't been able to get it. So I still have a 70% painted fence. So if anyone out there has got any slate garden fence, send it my way.
What colour was it before and what colour is it now? And is there a massive difference?
Yeah, it was a grotty green. And now it's quite nice slate. The bits that are painted are quite nice, but every time I went into the shop, they were out and they've had nothing in. So, and then I gave up. So to be honest with you, I should probably go shopping again. But I think I lost the painting mojo.
You haven't made the mistake of basically leaving that 30% in view of eye line just outside the window, or is that 30% around the corner?
No, it's in the corners.
It never needs to be done.
If you squint, you can't really tell.
The rest of it will be fine for 5 years. In 5 years' time, go back and finish that other piece.
Some people call that art and design, though, don't they? If you've got a contrasting colours.
No, it does look pretty scruffy, to be fair.
Oh, it's brilliant! It's brilliant. So that we'll start into it. So, Director of Fabric, Care Leavers Community. Tell us more about that, Harri.
Yeah, so what we are an organisation that provides loving homes with trauma-informed, relational-led support for children moving towards leaving the care system. So that's for 16 to 19-year-olds. We have homes at the moment based in Swansea and Eastport Talbot. They're very much set up, I guess, like student/shared living. So own bedrooms, but shared facilities. The difference is that the standard on them is high quality as opposed to maybe some of the older student type homes. I know that recently I've seen a lot of fantastic projects popping up for students, but I think some of the older styles, maybe the ones that I definitely lived in, We're not that nice. So kind of high quality, homely feel, but we have staff on site 24 hours a day to support them to develop the skills they need to learn to live in the adult world by themselves. Because unfortunately, at around 18, they become independent for themselves financially. Because they would move on to either working for themselves or being supported by universal credit. So our job is to, as much as possible, get them ready for the adult world, really.
Wow. So they only go in to those places at age 16, and it's a 24-month window to train them up. And then at 18, unfortunately, they have to go out and fend for themselves?
They can only come into ours because we're not a children's home. So we can only take from age 16 onwards, and we wouldn't really want to take any younger than that because the type of environment we are, because it is kind of semi-independent. So we do with, not for. So we provide support, not care. So we don't wash your clothes for you. We'll show you how to use the washing machine. We won't cook your dinner for you, but we will show you how to make a spaghetti bolognese. So any younger than about 16 wouldn't really feel right with what we're trying to do. Yeah. They can stay post-18 if the local authority will fund that. So we try to offer it up until the age of 19 because, I feel very, very strongly that, the care system as it isn't fit for purpose. Most, the average person, I think years ago they did a survey, the average person leaves home at 25. So, there was already a big age gap. If you look now at kind of in 2020, I think the statistics would probably show it's even higher. I've got friends that live at home 29, 30, 31. So that disparity is evident in the fact that they have to become independent at 18. Also, because of their experiences in childhood, often developmentally, they're younger than their chronological age. So we kind of got a system that's expecting more of those that maybe have less in the first place. So we've recently, mainly due to COVID, but also due to the fact that we've had some fabric kids that have needed that bit past 18. We've extended the age range to up to 19. And at the moment, we're trying to look at, is there a way that we can provide a fabric type provision, but for 18s and over? So very early stages of that, because funding will be the main difficulty around that. But there's definitely a need, and we love what we do.
Yeah. So you said there, Harri, the difference in almost the physical and emotional age. Is there a massive difference between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old? I know that sounds a crazy question, but like in terms of their development and stuff like that, are you very young at 16 to be living with an 18-year-old? Is there a huge...
It's really more down to do with the individual in question. So, as we all know, you can meet some people that are very, very mature for their age and at 25 can come across like they're 35. You meet somebody who's in their 40s still acting like they're in their 20s. So it is very, very individual. I would say that there is something in those teenage years. So you see a real big change in that kind of age range, 16 to 18. One of the reasons I'm really drawn to working with that age range is that there's a huge amount of development in the brain around those ages. So it's a really good kind of age bracket to try and get in there and give them the support they need to start making, positive choices if they're not making positive choices, or to support them to continue to do it, or to give them options. Maybe, in some cases, even to be the first person that's ever given them some motivation, inspiration, because the problem often with the care system is we get kind of predefined expectations on children leaving care. So they've had, I think it might have been Bernardo's, don't quote me on that, but they did one of the big charities did a survey about where the support is aimed at, and something like 70 to 80% of the people interviewed had received support in terms of how do they claim benefits, but a much lower percentage had received support around, well, how do I apply for a job? So it's about where you pitch things, isn't it? Because if yes, people need to know about the finances because they're not going to get to stay at home with mum and dad. So they do need to understand how they make their, appropriate claims for support. But they also need to be given the support in terms of, well, if I don't want to only be supported by universal credit, how do I get a job? How does that work? What are the soft skills I need? And if you only point in one direction, it kind of leads people to believe that that's the only direction in which they can go.
Yeah.
So for us, what we kind of one of our aims is we want equal opportunities for care leavers. So, you can never guarantee equal outcomes because you could put two people in the same childhood with exactly the same experiences, although that very rarely happens. But, you could put two people in that kind of thing and they'll still end up with different outcomes because that's the way it works, isn't it? We're all individuals. But to have equality of opportunity, and that's a huge ask because the circumstances are quite different for a lot of children that have been in the care system, but that equality of opportunity is what we're looking for. So just because you've been in the care system or you're about to leave the care system doesn't mean that when you're 16 you can't live in an environment that as much as possible gives you that feeling of being home. So we use words that are often not used in this age range. So we use family, we use love, we use hugs. They're all words and actions that we use in our organisation because, one of the most fundamental things that people want in life is to feel loved. That it's intrinsic in us, and we wanted to create an environment where our kids know that they are loved regardless of what's going on for them, regardless of what they've been through, difficulties. They're in an environment where they're loved, so they can walk out the front door in the morning and they can say, see you later, love you, bye. And they'll get the staff member say the same thing back. And that's important to us because we don't want to do hands-off support. Yeah. We want people to feel like they have a connection, that kind of relational-led work. It's our relationships that help build our resilience and get us through the difficult times. Obviously, COVID has shown this in kind of how much people are missing that face-to-face, how much they are missing being able to give their nan a hug or, popping into their mums for a cup of tea if they've had a bad day at work. And that's kind of the fundamental thing to Fabric, is that we want those people, the Fabric kids that we support, to know that they have that, and it's regardless of what label that they've got attached to them.
So I guess the big thing is the emotional and behavioural side of it. Then you really kind of push, I guess, on that the bit that they've missed, really.
I mean, for us, and some of them won't have, because all of the individuals, everybody's individual journey is different. But for us, so we work with we integrate an approach called the trauma recovery model. So we take parts of that model into the approach we work, because it kind of aligns with what we want to do. And that's all based very similarly to kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which obviously says you've got your fundamental things and then you build up. And they're kind of the fundamental things, the most core foundations are about developing trusting relationships with adults. We need to provide an environment where our Fabric kids feel that they can trust us and develop that relationship with us, because you can't really give somebody that effective support if you don't have a relationship with them. And often what happens for some Fabric kids or young people is that they've been in care for a sustained period of time. They've had potentially numerous foster placements, potentially numerous social workers, YPAs, professionals involved with them. And it's quite hard then to develop trusting relationships if you think, oh, I'm going to have another worker again soon.
Yeah.
It can be done because you can do really good work, short-term periods of work. But when you're living in an environment, you kind of want to feel safe there. And if the people that you are living with, the staff that are supporting you, give you an environment in which you feel safe, secure, relaxed, then it's a good starting point from which to build and move forward. So for us, we kind of don't focus on things like getting them into education, training or employment when they first move in. If they're already doing it, great, fantastic. But if they're not, it's about making sure that they have the fundamentals before you're doing things that are much more cognitive, because working with somebody on going to school or engaging in education or getting a job is a cognitive function. And if you haven't got, for example, a routine around going to bed, if you haven't got a routine about eating, if you haven't got good sleep, we know for most of us that work, we go to bed at a certain time, we get up at a certain time, because that allows us the capacity to manage work the following day. If you have a really bad night's sleep, we know how that impacts on us. So if we've got people that are in a consistently poor sleeping patterns, bad eating, quite tempestuous relationships, etc., it's really difficult to engage at that higher level.
Yeah.
So what we're focused on is actually individual needs. So not everyone is different, not everyone is the same, and kind of focusing on that bottom bit first, and then we can move up with the more cognitive, the higher levels later on.
Maybe over COVID, has most people forgot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they've been more concerned over the years of the flash holiday, the blingy watch and all of that, and they've taken for granted the parents, the brother, the sister, the family, the friends, and when they can't have it for the last few months, they've realised, wow, it's not about the flash car or all the money, because all the money in the world over the last few months couldn't buy you some things that you actually needed, i.e. going to see family and friends, I suppose. So you're dealing with that all the time. It's only now that the outside world has seen what it's like for people that you're with all the time, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I never escape it, because I'm constantly, children who've been in care have come from, in the majority, quite difficult backgrounds. And sometimes there can be a lot of judgment on the backgrounds that they've had or their parents. And for me, I can understand an immediate emotional reaction to hearing, what somebody's parents were like. But for me, it goes back to, again, that equality of opportunity. And when people haven't had equality of opportunity, and they haven't had, themselves parents that were supportive, family members, and income, all those things that often a lot of us take for granted because there are standard everyday things that exist. I'm 35 and my mother still messages me every day. And if COVID had wiped my, my business out and I needed money, I could have gone to her.
Yeah.
But there are some people that don't have that to go to, care experienced people that aren't the age that we deal with. I've got friends that are care experienced that don't have what I've got. And I think that sometimes helps us ground, because we all aspire to things. We all do it. We all aspire to the nice holiday or that new pair of trainers we want, because I love trainers. But we all are learning, if we didn't already know through COVID, that really isn't what makes the difference. It's not and I say, I do say it to our fabric kids, it's not the stuff that they're given. in terms of monetary value. It's that time, isn't it? We still get fabric kids that lived with us when they were 16 when we first opened. So that's 4 years ago that are 20, and I still get text messages off them now when I go for a coffee to have a catch up with, because they know they can do that, and that to me is why I know that we're doing what we set out to do, because we're building those sustainable relationships that if they know that they haven't got anywhere else to go for whatever reason, whether it's they're short of food or they're just having a really bad time, because let's face it, COVID is not fun for those people who've got lots of people to text, let alone those people who haven't, that they've got somewhere to go to. And I think hopefully, COVID has been very difficult for numerous different ways for most people. But maybe one of the things that we can all take away is that it's reminded us about, the true value of what's important in life. And most of that is kind of health and relational led, not monetary and status led.
You can't buy friends and happiness.
No, you can't. You might be able to buy fake friends and things that make you happy for a very short period of time, but that kind of general contentment with what you've got in your life, that comes from within, doesn't it?
Yeah. So tell us a bit about your journey, where you are now.
So in terms of where we're in COVID, or in terms of how we've got here?
I guess how you got to where you are, I guess. Yeah. What's your journey been?
My journey, so I'm a social worker by background, and I went into that probably because I grew up in an environment that was very much around, it's not what you look like or the clothes that you wear that is important, but who you are as a person and what you bring to the world. So I guess I always had, and sometimes it really annoyed me, that having to want to do something good. Sometimes it's annoying. But both my parents were psychiatric nurses, and my dad was an advisor for Welsh Assembly Government and a programme lead at the local Swansea University. And when I was at uni, when I was 21, my dad died after a period of being ill for quite some time. And at the time I was doing a media and marketing degree, and I really enjoyed elements of it. I'd always enjoyed elements of it, but I kind of felt, well, unless I can guarantee that I can go in and do the marketing for Bernardo's or NSPCC, which is quite, a niche element, then probably not quite that easy to guarantee, then I knew I didn't want to do it, because I didn't want to sell Coca-Cola to children. It was kind of my viewpoints on it, not that there's that I have a strong viewpoint on what other people do. And I kind of, when my dad died, I kind of sat and thought, what did I want to do? And I felt really strongly that I probably wanted to follow his path in terms of making a difference, I guess, and helping people. And knew I wasn't going to be very good in the medical profession because I'm really squeamish. So one of my dad's friends, who I used to call Auntie Vi, was a social worker. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. Never heard of it before. Don't know how. And I've always loved children. I'm kind of the Pied Piper for my friends' kids, probably because I am one big giant child myself. And I went to uni to do that. And when I qualified, I went into child protection, which is a really difficult arena. It's kind of where most newly qualifieds end up. This is where most of the jobs are. But it's a really difficult arena. I had a fantastic team, but I realized really, really quickly that my desire to do the best that I could do, which is kind of one of my flaws, I think, because I always want to do the best. And I found it really difficult because you're understandably working with a system that's very overstretched. And so you trying to do your best is nigh on always going to be impossible. You have to learn to what is good enough to allow you to do what is good enough for all of the people on your caseload, and allow you to manage your own health. And I kind of took a little bit of a break to go and think about what I wanted to do in the long term. And I kind of came back and went, I'd actually like to go and try different areas of social work, because I'd only done the child protection. which is an incredible job. And those people who do it are superheroes, in my opinion. But I went away and I came back and I tried lots of different areas, and I stumbled across a job working with teenagers, and I loved it. And I realised that although I love working with every age range of children, there's certainly a niche in working with teenagers, and something that I really truly felt that you are able to be 100% you with them, because they can see straight through. They can see straight through if you're trying to be anything other than you. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoy the fact that you are, it's a different kind of challenging. So in child protection, you're working with risks that other people are placing on smaller children. And when you work with teenagers, sometimes, a lot of the time, you're working with maybe risks that they're doing. And that's a real challenge in itself, because you're trying to work with people to learn how they're putting themselves at risk, etc. I loved working with them, but again, I just felt really strongly that I wanted to work with a smaller number of cases so I could do much more intense work. I'd seen a provision in Cardiff that was doing really good work, and I thought, because I was driving at the time, I was agency worker commuting to, I think that was Cardiff. I'd done Bristol before that and Barry afterwards. And I kind of thought, I really want to do something for my local community where I get to work with a smaller number of young people, and I get to make a bigger difference on a day-to-day basis. That's not to say what people do when you're managing bigger cases doesn't make a difference, because it does. But I felt on a day-to-day basis, I wanted to be able to really give that time so that I could see the seeds that we were sowing. So I kind of, at that point, I just randomly started having conversations with people about the ideas that I had. Because I don't come from a business background, I come very much from a background of people that work for, the NHS, etc. Didn't have a clue. I didn't really know anyone that owned a business. And it were, really close people. And none of my friends' parents owned them. So for me, it was I really fancy doing this, but I didn't really know anything about owning a business. So I started making, I guess, connections. That networking thing that we all talk about is fantastic, and people started pointing me in the right direction, and it kind of went from there. And I think that was 2014, I had the kind of first inklings of the idea, and I spent the next 18 months getting knocked down when trying to find out ways of getting the money. And yeah, we finally opened then in 2016 with the help of the Wales Council for Voluntary Action and Finance Wales.
Yeah.
Development Bank for Wales, they called that.
Yeah, Development Bank Wales now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really hard job. And there are easier jobs out there, and a lot easier. So it's on. You can sense the motivation, the power, the passion, but what's the motivation or driver for doing it?
It's not easy, and there are times when I would give anything. I pay you to have it, basically, numerous times a week. It actually changes on an hourly basis sometimes. I think I've always been quite a hard worker. I think that was instilled in me. And I kind of really do believe that nothing that's worth having is easy. There's cold quotes around that, but I kind of do feel quite strongly about that. And I guess it's, well, why not me? I guess we could, I could sit there and go, well, the system isn't providing this, or, the system doesn't work. But I think, you've seen what happens in COVID when you hit with a pandemic, the amount of people that go and they want to make a difference. And it's because we often live in our little bubbles, don't we?
Yeah. The
bubbles are the lives that we have. And I think once you have your eyes opened to something, or certainly for me, I can't switch my mind off to it. I think if I was in school now, I'd probably have a diagnosis of ADHD or something along those lines. I have an incredibly busy busy brain. And so the working hard bit doesn't really bother me. The motivation is that I just feel really, really strongly that if it wouldn't be good enough for my kids, why is it good enough for that kid? And that we live in a society where there are an awful lot of things that are problematic within society. There's an awful lot of fantastic things, but issues in terms of mental health and substance misuse and children being brought into care because of situations have become unmanageable. We're seeing changes, but we're not necessarily seeing 50% drop in mental health or 50% drop in poverty, etc. And I think that we have an opportunity with teenagers. We have a real opportunity with those children that have been in the care system to improve their outcomes. Because if we improve their outcomes, then we've got a chance of improving things in society. Because if our children that are in a care system get the right support and they learn ways to develop positive, stable mental health, and they develop positive mechanisms for dealing with the trauma that they've experienced, so they're not misusing substances, and if they are supported to get jobs which mean they're not reliant on universal credit, because let's face it, we've just seen universal credit increase in COVID. Well, if it's had to increase during COVID, then to me the implication is that it wasn't actually possible to live on that before COVID. I think that's a relatively fair assumption. We're seeing all these new things now, aren't we, about pushing to get rid of obesity in society because, of COVID. We've got fat shaming going on, whereas the reality is that obesity is hugely linked to financial inequality, isn't it? Let's face it, you can buy your pink lady apples for £2.60 and get 4 of them, or you can get a big bag of chips and some chicken nuggets, probably some pop and crisps for the same amount of money. So I kind of feel very much that once my eyes were open to that, I wanted to be a part of the solution, and that by being a part of the solution, I'm maybe creating a better future for the children that I might have one day. I don't know, maybe that's it.
Yeah. I jump in with the chips there, but that 20 minutes of pleasure, isn't great for you in terms of eating the 4 apples. I get it, but
listen, I like chips. I had chips on the weekend, but I think it's the difference between having chips because you want chips and picking chips because you've got 4 mouths to feed and that amount of money. And I think, if we can start improving things for our younger generation in terms of, and not just caregivers, because the younger generation are going to, are again creating the future, aren't they? I firmly believe that the youth are the future of tomorrow's society. If we can start improving things across the board in terms of mental health, education, health and fitness, healthy body image, then we can move away from that over-reliance, because we tend to have a system where we take what I call the stick in plaster approach. So we put all these things in, amazing services, but we're putting them in place. And what we need is more earlier intervention. We need to, there we are, there's typical podcast doorbell. They're going to have to...
Amazon delivery of chocolates.
That's my chips on order. It is lunchtime, 5 to midday. Whoops. It's not chips, I promise. I'm going to just let them think there's nobody here. If we keep sticking plasters over stuff rather than going, actually, what's going to help? So if we took more trauma-informed approaches to working with people, if we took less fat-shaming approaches to losing weight and more let's find ways of making healthier food cheaper, then we might actually see bigger positive change. Because when we live in systems that divide people or make them feel bad, if you were to tell somebody, excuse me, you're fat, I don't think that, or excuse me, you've got a men, I don't think they'd say excuse me, but when you're pinpointing somebody for something in a negative way, surely that's just going to knock somebody's self-esteem and make them feel worse. And most of the time, most people have a form of, I saw a really interesting article the other day about self-harm and how that most people have a version of self-harm. It's probably just less extreme than actually hurting yourself. So for, had a bad day at work, coming through the front door, have a glass of wine, often we find our own ways of managing difficult situations. Some of them are healthy, some of them aren't. And out of the non-healthy ones, some of them are more socially acceptable than others.
Yeah. It's like stress eating, isn't it? Things like that. People will eat when they're stressed. I think I do that, actually.
I think everyone does those things, don't they? And it's go back.
I don't think I know.
We haven't got enough time today to discuss it all. But as you said there, but it's easy to go into a shop and spend £10 on three bags full of absolute rubbish food, but that same £10 wouldn't get you half a bag of healthy food. It is the thing of healthy food or healthy eating is too costly for most people, but that's a discussion.
But another podcast.
Another one, yeah.
But just touch on that. They're making that a bit worse because they got that 50% off thing now, haven't they? For, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? But McDonald's and KFC have been thrown into that mix.
Well, I'm not sure that you want to get me started on that topic.
No, let's leave it.
No, but that does amaze me. Like that, we're saying that we've been unhealthy in lockdown, and then we're not helping it.
Well, there's a lot of things we're not helping in lockdown.
No, that's not.
There we go.
Talking about it, has the business let me try that again. Has the business had to adapt during this period of time?
When it first hit, my main concern was whether we were actually going to survive because of which I think was most business owners thought at some point, but in different ways. So for us, not in terms of whether we would have enough of so obviously we're a service business as opposed to a product business. So not in terms of whether the need for our service would go down, but more in terms of how do we keep it alive? Because our business is a 365-day, 24 hours a day business that's staffed throughout that period of time. And obviously our charging structure is based on our costs. So yes, so we do have two elements to the Care Leavers community. We've got a charity and a trading company. One deals with the fun activities and the grant raising and all the nice therapeutic type based activities or just fun stuff. And the other stuff deals with the day-to-day, roof overhead, dealing with local authorities. And costs for that are based on what it costs us to provide it. So obviously there needs to be an element with all businesses of profit, but we're not a typical profit-making company. We're, overall we're a social enterprise, and therefore our costs are based on what we pay our staff, which is real living wage, not agency wage. So the original thoughts were, right, okay, what if the staffing levels do get as bad as some of the stuff that's on the news out there? How are we going to staff this? Because agency staff cost double what our normal staff, our life coaches receive. So there was that element of it. And then it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? So we kind of thought, well, we had some conversations with local authorities about kind of if we had to use agency staff, could we do like a fair allocation of costs? Actually, our amazing team have been fantastic, and we've not actually used one agency staff member throughout COVID. And I think that just goes down to, again, that passion and motivation that this type of business, you're recruiting the right people based on their passion and drive, not what pieces of paper they've got or letters after their name. But we did make a decision to change the way we charged financially. So we used to charge 2 weeks in arrears, And we kind of, we've moved to a model where we charge very much like rent or mortgage 4 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
What that enabled us to do is kind of have that kind of cash in bank, but it also meant that if there were any difficulties in terms of kind of local authority invoicing, which was a potential, though we've not really seen that, but sometimes, you know, with the concerns about staffing levels, everyone could be hit by a staffing level, including a payroll or an invoicing team. So moving to that model has kind of given us a little bit more of a breather. Other than that, it's kind of been business as usual, but just with some changes. So we made, for 2 months, we had our management team work from home because the environment they usually work in is quite chaotic because it's a building with teenagers in it. So we kind of put additional money into staffing to allow our management team to go and work from home to get through all the admin stuff and the backlog, because obviously COVID hit, they added an awful lot of administrative work, which took us away from our kind of standard day-to-day work. Other than that, it's been an interesting experience in loads of ways, but on a business level, I'd say that we're really fortunate. I've had some conversations with, it's a conversation last week with people from the Social Enterprise Index, and they kind of fed back how nice it was to talk to a business that is being so positive about the future, where we've been and the future moving forward. So I guess I am acknowledging we've had difficulties, but I'm grateful for where we're at.
Yeah.
With all of that, though, a lot of the times we chat to people, and it's a big question we bring up a lot, mostly with the sports people, and that was the mental strength, mental toughness, and the ability to kind of park the bad day. And with the job and the business that you guys are in, there must be lots of, you touched on earlier, bad days, bad hours, just because of the very nature of dealing with young, vulnerable people. So how do you deal with those bad days, bad minutes, bad hours? How do you park them to the side and still keep a happy, smiley face and keep your staff going when sometimes it's just, crap?
I think, do you know what? It's one of those things that I think, and I often ponder about in kind of the business sector sometimes in life is, yes, it is important to focus on the positives, 100%. But it's also important that, and I've learned, because I can be sometimes seen as the eternal optimist, everything's going to be great. And balance it with realism, and also allowing yourself to, what my friend once called, sitting in the which is, acknowledging where you're at. And it is okay to say you're having a bad day. It is okay to feel that. Now, you don't want to sit in it for too long or dwell on it. But I think it's that, being real. So there's being optimistic. And then there's sometimes you can feel that like there's enforced positivism going on. And I think that can be quite damaging for people, because if you're having a bad day, it's okay to say you're having a bad day. Don't be a mood hoover about it. But that's one of my favorite sayings. But I don't see it as toughness, because I think toughness is one of those things that I think can lead people to think that anything other than tough is weak.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about resilience and vulnerability. So my team have seen me cry on numerous occasions. They've seen me cry. They have seen me because I'm a very visual person. You can tell on my face how I am. I can't hide it. And therefore, to try and hide something to that level, for me, would be disingenuous for me. So I protect people from stuff that would cause them great concern, but I also wouldn't hide stuff that they need to, that could be relevant for them. Yeah. And I think we create an environment where people learn that vulnerability is a strength. You can't work in this arena really and not being. I'm an emotional person. I'm a naturally emotional person. I'm quite good at logic and rational as well, but it's something I've worked on. But, it's the emotional side of things is why I do what I want to do. I can't bear the thought of, children living in environments that are not safe. They're, that aren't kind, that aren't nice. And I think that has created who I am. I'm an emotional person. My team will know from the look on my face if it's been a really bad day, and they'll see that. And I think that sharing it sometimes at an appropriate level allows people to not think that they're superhuman. That person's superhuman. That's, because I think if we all go around acting like we're superhuman, that can make other people feel like they're less than, or that I can't run a business. I couldn't do that because I haven't got that. We see it a lot, don't we? That, people who get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I am one of those people that do yoga. I'm also one of those people. But, I'm also one of those people that some days eats chips on the sofa and I haven't put a brush through my hair all day. And guess what? I didn't make it to the gym 3 times this week.
Yeah. Because
I think it's about that balance between portraying the perfect and portraying the reality, which is some weeks you've got your stuff together and the context around your life is allowing you to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do your yoga and eat your salmon and all that. And some weeks are generally just, if I've made it through today and I'm still breathing, then it's a success. And I think so that's what works for me. And I kind of trying to support the team to have those open and honest conversations, because, we also work in an environment with kids that can see right through you if you're not being honest. So if we're not being honest with each other, we probably don't stand a good chance of getting things right with them.
I think you brought that up earlier on about them, the young adults being able to see right through you. So it's almost sounds like it's a thing of saying, do you know what, which is coming out now with COVID, it's okay not to be okay. If you're not normal, if you don't have a bad day, because not everything goes correct all of the time in the real world. And it's okay to have those down days, but just, you have to be able to get through them. And if you need a bar of chocolate or some chips or whatever it may be to get through it, have that, because
sometimes
everyone
it's okay. It's balance, isn't it? Yeah, if we do things all the time that are unhealthy, then it becomes unhealthy patterns. And I think it's if we're, nobody wants a moaning Myrtle that's coming in all day, do they? Like I say, nobody wants a mood hoover. But then you do, you want that kind of realism. And we often have banter. We turn, and it's quite common in the social and healthcare sectors, you turn things that would make other people's brains explode, you try and turn it into something that you can have some warmth and laughter over. Those days that go so wrong that you think I just should have stayed in bed, it's trying to find that way to laugh about the fact that it's been that bad. And we do get those days where I'm looking up and I'm going, really, universe, just one day, please. And it tends to be my friends that I do that stuff. So I do the real, oh my God, tears, ranting, blue language with my friends that get it, often business owners that, because they really do get it. And then by the time I've got to that bit at work and seen my team, I've managed to get that, it's like that emotional purge out, the irrational chimp part of your brain that just feels like being smashed in the face with a breeze block by the universe. That's done. So when you go in, you just look like you're having a bit of a bad day, whereas your poor friends just had, 15-minute rant about how the universe hates you and you want to go backpacking around the world.
I'm not sure, but sometimes we're, near the end now we come to and say, give us some highs and lows, of your journey and stuff like that. But I'm not sure if we've talked about so many kind of, the world, if it's a bad place and we're having bad days, should we just go straight and sort of give us some high points, on the journey so far? And if you're allowed to, don't name names and that, but even some funny stories to lighten the mood.
I mean, the social care sector, like you just said, it's going to have and running a business is going to have bad days. But, working with teenagers is honestly one of the best things I've ever done because, so recently one of our fabric kids old fabric kids has been on the BBC doing, she fed back into an article on how, care leavers, the difficulties they experience. She's, like all of our fab kids, and a fantastic person. She's done incredibly well in her kind of move from where she was until the future. But and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this, but I still remember the day where I'm sat in my office having my breakfast because they hadn't come down to go and do something that they'd agreed to do at the right time. Typical teenagers, but there's lessons that all of our parents force us to learn. And when I refused to take them because I had another meeting coming up and they were late, I got called an effing lazy, another expletive that I won't say on video, for eating my breakfast and not doing my job. And at the time, it was really, it wasn't the best day. We weren't having the best day, but afterwards, it's become this real warm banter that her and I have over the development of her as a person, from frankly losing shit over me eating a bagel and taking no accountability for the fact she was an hour late, to us sitting having coffee doing university applications together, and her donating clothes for our current kids. So, you have real banter, and we do, and banter is the key. So for us as an office, we are often posting silly things that staff members are doing, like TikToks and all sorts, because it is what gets you through. And those kind of you have different types of highs. You have highs in terms of seeing the changes that can be made from creating the right environment with the kids. So those are always going to be the best things. You can win as many awards as you want, but the kids that come back to you and say, it was the first time I ever felt loved. I mean, you can't put a price on that. If Carlsberg made, feelings, that would be the top of them. And then you have the kind of highs for staff when we do things like win awards. And so one of the funniest moments we've probably had is at an awards do. So you go in business from some crazy environments where you spend most of your days walking around in jeans and Dr. Martens, being very, very true to who you are. And then occasionally you have to go to events where you have to put on posh frocks and people are walking around in penguin suits. And we were at the Wales Startup Awards the other year, and we'd won the year before. And the following year, an absolutely amazing social enterprise won the category. And I'd popped out to the toilet, and as I walked back into the room, I heard regional startup of the year, fabric. And I was like, what's going on? Because our category, we didn't win. And little did I know that they decided to put us in for the regional award. And as I tottered up to the stage, because I had about 6-inch heels on. Now, I don't wear them very often, but if I wear heels, I wear big heels. And I was so surprised and taken aback by it, because I hadn't seen the lead up, that I just walked in as they announced our name, that my lovely friend Dylan Jones-Evans, who runs the awards, I turned over him and basically called him a very big expletive. But sat next to him was Alan Cairns, Secretary of State for Wales at the time, and it was his eye I caught. So whilst accepting an award that I had to be helped onto stage with because I could barely walk in my heels, I was quite offensive to Secretary of State for Wales. And that's something we still laugh about now, many years later, that, I made that little boo-boo. But, we all do these things.
It happens.
That's brilliant.
Time to think.
Those things happen, don't they?
Not that it really bothers me, because I'm one to find the funny in everything. But yeah, it was quite the joke for the rest of the evening.
That's good. So what's next for you, Harri, and Fabric?
What's next for us? Well, obviously, I mentioned that we're looking at potentials for, is there anything we can do to help those care leavers that are post-18? At the moment, we're looking at, we know our model works. So we started in Swansea, we've replicated into Neath, and our next bit is, well, what other local authorities would benefit from us? Because our kind of overall vision is to support the development of a million care leavers, and that's a big number. I was probably in my creative brain when I came up with that. Million sounds great. But that's going to take a lot of work. And we won't achieve that just through the provision of accommodation. There's a lot of other bits that we do in terms of lobbying for political change around issues that affect care leavers. So we were part of the campaign that in Wales that meant that care leavers don't pay council tax now. Okay. But one of the things that we would like to do is see a model that we know works, and it works well in Swansea and Neath, and it could work well in any local authority across the UK. So we're kind of looking at how do we grow that. So I've recently just finished a fantastic course with Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses. So anyone listening that's in need of a business course, they should definitely have a look at that one. And that's all about growing your business and getting your business to that point where it can grow successfully, but also where it doesn't grow at the business owner's detriment. Because I think that's, to date, one of the things, you commented on earlier, how do you do all that? It's usually been by, having an epically poor work-life balance, which is something I've been working on a lot over the last 12 months. So I would really, really like to see us grow and help, because that's going to do that feel-good bit for me, that bit, that intrinsic thing in me that wants to leave the world a better place than I came into it. But how do we achieve that in a way that will be healthy for me and allow me to have a better work-life balance? So it's probably going to be hopefully through the fantastic team at the moment. We've got an absolutely incredible team that we've built up over the last 12 months. We've had some great promotions recently. So it's going to be that thing that I think most business owners want, but at the same time are really scared of. It's like delegating things and letting go of your baby. And I think that's something I've been working on. So, but I'm getting, when I can see the rewards that are coming with letting go of stuff. And I feel, it's same for us adults, isn't it? It's that trust.
Yep.
You have to trust in people, and you have to have the right people that you can really trust in to know that when you're letting go of something, it's going the right way. And I think that, that we're in a really fortunate position in the last 12 months that we've got some incredibly talented staff members that share the crazy Harri vibe, I guess, about the passion and the commitment. So I know that I can start doing that. If we're going to grow, I can start letting things with my baby go.
Perfect.
That's
really, really, really good.
Watch this space.
Your chips are going to go really cold out on the doorstep now, so we better let you go now.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll have to go and see what's out there.
Thanks, Harri.
Probably it isn't chips. I wish it was, to be honest with you. I need to do a food job.
Thanks, Harri.
Great. Cheers, guys.
Harri, thanks for taking the time to chat to us today. It was really, really enjoyable. And your first podcast is now done. Well done. No, really, really enjoyable chatting to you. Head over to the website, www.sanfp.co.uk, to learn more about us and our journey. That's it for this episode. Next, we're talking all things TV, radio, agencies, and of course his interest, sport, and pubs. That's with Geraint Hardy. You can hear that wherever you get your podcasts, plus don't forget to click subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they arrive. Plus, don't forget to listen to our new Chats at the Bar series every Tuesday for a short insight into business, money, finance, aspirations, dreams, and planning. Also, if you're enjoying the series, please do leave us some feedback with a quick review, as it helps us grow and ensure we are giving our audience the best experience. Until next time, Thanks for listening.